called Another Window. I heard a New Yorker describe the interaction between Mount Vernon and her soul. Something like a 1920s portrait of a cathedral and the convenience of a 7-Eleven store. She called this convergence Baltimore, her second home. Flashed my life in this city, a miasma of dumbness, my decisions incomprehensible. Like the year the cicadas came, breaking through the ground after a grueling 17-year hiatus. Insects hammered us with heavy anguish. Verses created out of squeals and screeches and squawks. Men and women fought for this ferocious plague. Sleeping Beauty had a posture shift. This was not home for me. It was this God-forsaken place. I often muttered it under my breath. Boarded up dreams everywhere I looked. Teddy bears tied to lampposts. Muddy racial lines chalked on bruised city streets. The New Yorker baffled me. And yet she was like me. She wasn't a daughter of this city. She was a bastard brought here by barren eyes. Nobody would choose to come here. Nobody would choose to stay. And yet I had for 20 years. Dismantled by the pain of white picket fences, memories jaded through my heart, from divorce to foreclosure. Why do I remain? Why? I've been bewitched. Pouches of people bunched in neighborhoods. The Jewish girls gazing through the streets in black ruffles. Their promised husbands are knotted strings, holding on to belt loops. Museums, remnants of the Underground Railroad, and Zora lived here. Colleges offering careers while pulling oranges from one another's backyard. Then, of course, this sensibility of God. Winter was my first experience with confetti skies. Spring was wool kicked under bridges and bare toes again. Summer, sunshine. But it was sunshine without my Atlantic Ocean kissing the Gulf of Mexico. And fall, well, fall, she was. She had become my beloved rainbow. I hated this city. Refused her charm. But in the voice, the lyrical nuances of love from a New Yorker bestowed on this city and observation was now my shame. Baltimore has fed me her cream of crabs. She has beguiled her way into my bios. She opened windows and winded my childhood dreams with inspiration. She has given me fodder for broken pencils. She has. After all, I guess she has. She has given me a place to call home. I still hate it. Let me see. This is another one. These are just some pieces I'm working on. What I like to do is, as I'm teaching poetry classes, and as my students are writing, so am I. And it's how I keep my writing going and flowing and just moving. Because when they're writing, they have to produce a little small miniature manuscript at the end of the semester. And I usually have a small little miniature manuscript at the end of the semester. Sometimes it's a continuation of what I'm working on, or sometimes it's just new pieces, because experiences are happening and keep happening and coming all the time. This one is called Bare Feet. He walked into my heart and took his shoes off. Then he stopped. His feet smelled of lavender. I don't know. Maybe it was the scent that came when he did. He walked upstairs and downstairs and then in my kitchen. He looked in the fridge and he searched for all of these things to scramble me some eggs. Yep. scrambled eggs, but he was scrambling my feelings too. He invited me to sit down at my own table. And he fed me his love from a fork and warmed my soul with stories. Then he scratched the daily grind from my scalp. And he washed the debris from my day with kisses upon my neck. When he spoke, only my ears heard him. He was this kind of man whose anger could not be heard in the city. My soul answered every syllable, and every time he spoke, my spine stood straight up to heaven. Yep, he made me believe in salvation. Like my sins were redeemed by his glance. Like my sins were redeemed by his glances into my eyes. I knew I had been scourged, and I could finally breathe air again. But he didn't stay for long. He didn't stay long enough for me to believe in unicorn or a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. He left quietly on a soft night, and he rolled the wings of a dove. I was hoping to find me an olive branch. I remained earthbound, waiting, longing for his bare feet on my heart. Any questions? I'll stop there for a minute. Y'all was looking so intently. Yes, sir.
First, thank you for gracing us with your poems.
You're welcome.
Is there a format that you follow? Because I know there's like iambic pentameter and all those. Do you follow it, or do you go like free form?
Free verse all day. When I'm teaching, because I am teaching, and I teach students the form, because that's history. But most poetry today, free verse. It's just flow. So I wrote a sonnet. I'm particularly fascinated by haikus. Anybody else? What's your reaction to the pieces? Is that a hand? I'm just doing
Well, I can
Yes,
say
go ahead.
they are very intense. Like, once you start reading them, I get so like, I want to keep listening to you read. So you're not boring. So.
Well, thank
Like,
you. Well, thank you.
I do like you. I just keep telling you that because like your poems, aren't they all like true?
Not all of them.
But
Not all of them.
a couple of them
Yeah.
are. And like how you put them together, and you say, they like tell a story and you get to the point because they're not very long. And that keeps me in tune to them because they're not too long and I don't get distracted.
This is the microwave generation, right? It can't be too long. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's 1,000 questions.
Yeah, come on. Nobody else is asking, so ask your 1,000 questions.
You state that you write morbid poems. Does that release you of any burdens?
Absolutely.
Daily?
I don't write poetry daily. I try to journal daily. I'm not always successful at that, but it definitely does. Because again, it takes the ineffable, the speechless, the emotions that are on the inside of me to get it out of me, so I can continue to smile.
With your son, Doral?
Darrell.
Doral. Have you ever written poetry for him?
No.
Is there any that he would say is his favorite?
I don't know. He read my entire book, but I don't know that he shared which was his favorite or if it was his favorite or what have you. He's certainly one of my #1 fans, of course, you know that. And if he didn't have to be in school, maybe he would be here instead of Davon Brooks.